In this lesson, we will continue to talk about geometry nodes, and we're going to create an animation using a texture and noise, and we will mix some values around. And again, we're going to experiment with other attribute nodes right here that we started in the previous lesson. So in the previous lesson, we worked with the visualization of the objects and the analysis of the number of the points of the faces. So we started with the domain size to have a count on the objects that are in the scene, and then we saw other visualization features that we can use with the nodes so that we can again analyze some of the actions that we are doing with the geometry nodes. And then we worked also with the little animation animating the spheres, and also we finished with this colored sphere that right now is communicating, if we can say so, with a store name attribute which we name custom val, and we linked to this random value. And this one here is affecting another setting in the shader editor. So we are communicating with another editor, and we are starting to use materials, colors, and then we're going to see also how we can use textures. So right now we're just using this attribute linked to the base color, which we connected by using the same exact word. It's like using a password and connecting two devices that are separated using that, like, I don't know, a Bluetooth. So if we go back in the geometry editor, whatever we fix in that original value is going to be also displayed right here in the shader editor. But it got a little bit stuck in there. Now, one thing we can already do is apply here a subdivision. So I'm going to subdivide the mesh. So subdivide mesh, and this will give me more resolution. So it's like the more I increase here the level of subdivision, the better I can visualize also the color that I'm using. And I've chosen here color, and here you can also change, and you can use edges. So you have another result, kind of tiling effect, and then you have face, it looks like pixels, and then others. Not all of them, because we are not using spline or instances. So let's stop to the face, because I like this pixelation, and this is the effect that I used in the other example. Okay, so we are using this random value here that is gonna give us like RGB colors. So we can also change it if we like want to play a little bit around with this. And also we have some, I can see the faces there. So perhaps we can add a quick shade effect. So like shade smooth, or maybe shade auto smooth. So we apply this other node. If we go in the modifier, we have now the geometry node that we are working with and the smooth by. And let's leave it like this for the time being. So let's introduce another important node, in my opinion, which is the name attribute. Now you can see this is a read, so meaning that it can serve you as an analysis of something, and it's going to read through the geometry. So if I use this name attribute, I can find here an attribute to read. And you can see that among these that are already there, I also have the custom val attribute that we created in the previous lesson. So if you're having problems with this visualization here, just go back in the previous lesson and check how we got here. So once I recall this, basically, I can use it anywhere else I want to use it. So let's, for example, extrude. Let's apply here an extrusion. So I'm gonna Shift A and search for extrude mesh, and I'm gonna place it right here. And look what happens. Now all the faces are being extruded. Now I can decrease a little bit the amount because that's kind of a little bit too wild. So I can extrude again by faces, I can extrude edges or vertices, which is not really what we probably want to do. So, and maybe I don't want to extrude just the faces. What if I want to extrude all these little pixels and separately? So I cannot access that except if I use a selection. So we already talked about indexing and selecting stuff inside, but here we're not going to use the color like we did in here. We color the face. So here we just want to float and this becomes gray. But if I put it in here, well, this is not like considering it. So we need something in between right here. And usually, as we did before, again with indexing, let's add a compare. So utilities mod compare, and we can use like equal or others. We can try with others, and let's just put this in the selection. And already something is happening here. And if I just play around, you can see that not every color is extruding, and so we have like colors that are back in there and colors that are being extruded. We can continue to play with this. We can use less than, and so we're gonna have, you know, colors that are less than a specific value that will be extruded. And if you push this like after 1, everything is gonna be extruded. So what's in between here is the other colors. Now this is sometimes more comprehensible using floats value, so just black and white values that go from 0 to 1. And so here we usually, when you have values from 0 to 1, 0 represent the minimum, like the black color, and 1 represent the maximum with the white color. So again, you can choose here how many of these you want to use in the selection. Now, another thing that I found useful, for example, in Grasshopper for Rhino, which is another procedural modeler, is the slider. And the closest thing I found here that could be used as a slider at the moment is the mix. Mixing is a great way to balance your results. Okay, I want to drop down the offset because it was too wild. And now I can decide here to play with this other value if I want. And I'm going to take again the name attribute now and use another mix node for the extrusion. So instead of using like one single offset for the extrusion, I want to use this attribute again. And so you will see that this is going to be again a little bit wild, and you know, every phase is being extruding at a different height. So it's a random that is coming from here. Remember that this is the original value. So if you change this, that's going to affect what's going to happen in there. So more or less extrusion, etc., etc. Okay, but now if I use the mix right here, I can make this perhaps a little less extruded. So I can adjust basically what's happening here. I can go, I'm going back inside actually right now. So I just want to go little forward, create some variations. So now let's make some adjustments. I want to use the random value from 0 to 1, so from white to black. And here I can now use this slider to slide these extrusions back and forward. And maybe I'll just keep it 0 here and just use the factor so I can control them a little bit better. And if you don't want like black spots, you can just increase just a little bit the minimum value. And so we have a nice random extrusion on this surface so far. If you want,